Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Danny, and this is Drinking with a Ginger. A lot has happened in the world of sports since the last time I recorded, so let's just get right into it. I want to give a big congratulations to Baylor University women's basketball team on winning the national championship, and to University of Virginia men's basketball team on winning their national championship. I don't really follow women's basketball too much, so I don't really have anything to say about them. Just congratulations. They were able to beat Notre Dame in the national championship. I believe it was by 1 or 2 points. It was a very close game. I do know that they had a pretty big lead, and Notre Dame was able to come back and make it a one-score game there at the very end. As far as the men's national championship game, I was definitely watching that very closely. I follow college basketball along pretty closely throughout the season. UVA was playing Texas Tech in the national championship, and I was rooting for Texas Tech just because I had them to win the national championship in my bracket. But unfortunately, UVA was able to pull out the win. It was a really good game the entire way. A lot of back and forth action. UVA was able to take, I believe it was probably 2 or 3 10-plus point leads, but Texas Tech was able to battle all the way back. They were able to take the lead by, I believe it was 3, maybe even 4 points in the last minute, but their defense collapsed in the last 10 seconds or so, maybe 15 seconds, and UVA was able to tie the game up with a 3 and send the game into overtime, where they ultimately came out with the win. And congratulations to Kyle Guy. He was named the Final Four MVP. He's a guard on UVA. And now on to what I think is bigger, better, and more important things. Pro sports playoffs have started. Hockey started last Wednesday, I believe, and there's a lot of good series going on. In the East, 3 out of the 4 series as of right now are shutouts. The biggest surprise of all is the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're down 3-0 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. And the reason why that's such a big surprise is because the Tampa Bay Lightning finished the season as the best team in the league. So they came into the playoffs as the overall number 1 seed. And to lose 3 straight games to the number 8 seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs, that's extremely surprising. I thought they were just going to be able to run through Columbus, and it was going to be an easy road onto the next, or an easy series onto the next round. But the great thing about playoffs is that there can be upsets and surprises at every corner. Going along with that, in the East, the Bruins and the Maple Leafs are currently, their series is tied 1-1. And then the Capitals and Carolina Hurricanes, the Washington Capitals, my favorite team. They're the defending champions and currently hold a series lead of 2-0. However, that game is currently going on, and the Hurricanes just scored, making the game 2-0. They're beating the Capitals, and they're playing in Carolina. So hopefully, it's pretty early in the second period, so there's still more than half a game left. So hopefully the Capitals are able to come back. They won the first game pretty easily. It was 4-2. And then the second game, a couple days ago, it went into overtime, but they were able to win. So I'm hoping Washington can come back in this game and take a 3-0 series lead. The last series of the Eastern Conference first round playoffs, another, I wouldn't say upset, but also kind of a surprise just with team histories. The New York Islanders are leading the Pittsburgh Penguins 3-0. I didn't think the Islanders would win 3 straight against the Penguins. I thought this would be a lot tougher series, and the games haven't even been close. The first game was close. It went into overtime. Islanders won, but between games 2 and 3, the Islanders have outscored the Penguins 7-2. So it's been pretty rough for Pittsburgh. As far as the Western Conference playoffs, they're in a lot closer matchups. As of right now, there are no series where one team has all the wins. Between the Nashville Predators and the Dallas Stars, they're tied at 1-1. I haven't watched any of those games, so I'm not too sure how that series is going. The St. Louis Blues are leading the Winnipeg Jets 2-1. I do know that St. Louis was able to they were able to take both games in Winnipeg, and then Winnipeg was able to take the first game in St. Louis. So that series is it's kind of weird. Usually home teams are supposed to win, and they do win, but in this series, it looks like the away team is winning all the games so far. So it'll be interesting to see how that series pans out. And then the next one we got is the Calgary Flames against Colorado Avalanche. That series is currently tied at 1-1. And then the last series is the San Jose Sharks against the Vegas Golden Knights. A lot of people say you can't have 2 teams, but I consider the Golden Knights my second team just by living in Vegas. I remember I went to the draft a couple years ago before their first season, and it was super exciting. So I, of course, have been following along ever since. Go to a few games every season. It's very exciting. This town has definitely taken to the hockey team open arms. Everyone in the city is super excited. As hockey fans know, and Vegas fans, last year they were able, in their first year of the franchise, able to make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals before they lost 4-1 to the Capitals. But that was I don't think anyone in the league saw that happening, but they took the league by storm and they were able to go all the way to the finals. This year was a little tougher. Currently, they have a 2-1 series lead. They were able to win last night against the Sharks pretty handedly. I believe the final score was 6-3. It got a little last night. In last night's game, I was not too worried, but it started getting a little iffy there in the third period because they gave up 2 goals to the Sharks in about 30 to 45 seconds. So I wasn't sure if the Sharks were going to be able to ride that all the way and fully come back, but the Knights were able to stop their comeback and they added on an extra goal later. Like I said, they lead 2-1. After the first game and the first period of game 2, I definitely had my doubts about this series. I thought the Sharks were going to be able to win pretty easily. They won game 1 5-2, and it didn't even feel that close. I thought it should have been a lot worse. As far as game 2, Vegas Knights won 5-3. The scary part about that game was, though, they took a 3-goal lead in the first period within like the first 7 or 8 minutes. And then in the last 2.5 minutes of the game, or of the first period, San Jose scored 3 goals right before the end of the period, tied at 3-3. And then the Knights were able to get 1 goal in period 2 and period 3 to win 5-3. When the Sharks were able to tie it at the end of the first period, I thought that was it. I thought they had all the momentum and they were just going to come out super strong in the second period and possibly run away with the game. But the Knights were able to settle down. Not sure what was said in intermission, but they came out in the second period and they scored pretty quickly. If I remember, it was in like the first 2 or 3 minutes of the second period. So they were able to weather the storm and settle down, take the lead back, and ultimately won the game. Now that they're up 2-1, they still have one more game at home before they go back to San Jose. If they keep riding this wave that they're on, I think they'll be able to win this series. I definitely think it'll go probably 6 games, maybe even 7 games. I remember last week before the series even started, one of the radio DJs in town said that Vegas Golden Knights were going to have an easy series just because in the regular season they played the Sharks 4 times, and 2 out of the 4 times they caused the Sharks goalie to be pulled within the first period. But also what they failed to mention is the other 2 games the Knights lost. So they finished the regular series tied 2-2. And as soon as he said that, I just thought in my head, I was like, no, that's probably not true. It's not going to be an easy road. I mean, they are all professionals. But I think this series will be tough, but ultimately the Golden Knights will win. I think it'll definitely go at least 6 games, maybe even 7 games. It'll be a very exciting series to watch. I believe Game 4 is either tomorrow on Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember if they skip a day between games 3 and 4 or games 4 and 5. But as far as the overall outcome of the playoffs, if Tampa Bay can't come back against Columbus, that'll completely shake up the East. Currently, right now, the Bruins and the Maple Leafs are playing. Maple Leafs have a 2-1 lead in almost, I think there's about 4 minutes left in the second period. So if they're able to win this game, they'll take a 2-1 lead. I believe, I don't know, it's tough. I don't really care for the way that the hockey playoff bracket is set, because other sports leagues, they rank everyone who makes playoffs from 1 to whatever, depending on how many teams are in the playoffs. So similar to use an example, basketball, it's 1 through 8. 8 teams from each conference make the playoffs, so they're actually numbered 1 through 8. And it doesn't matter what division you're in. It's just separated between Eastern and Western Conference. With the NHL playoffs, they separated between Eastern and Western Conference, but then they also separated between divisions. So the way the teams that make the playoffs are the top 3, the top 3 division winners, because each conference only has 2 divisions. So it's the top 3 division winners, and then the next 2 teams, the next 2 teams outside of those 6 are the wild card teams. And they separate them to where the 8 teams, 4 of them are from each division, and then the divisions play each other until there's a division winner, and then the 2 division winners of the Eastern Conference will play each other, and then the 2 division winners of the Western Conference will play each other, and then those winners go on to the Stanley Cup. So instead of it being actually numbered from 1 to 8, depending on how you finish with the record, it's broken down into divisions within the conference playoff teams. I don't know if I'm explaining that in the easiest way so that you can picture it, but so right now I'm looking at like the Capitals' road to the playoffs, and they, in order for them to go to the Stanley Cup Finals, they have to beat 2 teams in their division, and then they have to beat the winner of the other Eastern Conference division. So it's kind of weird. Like, not only in the regular season do you play a bunch of games against your entire division, but then once you go to the playoffs, you're guaranteed to face 2 more teams in your division if you continue to move on. I don't really like how they do it. I think they should just number it 1 to 8 instead of separating it by divisions within the conference playoffs. That would shake it up a lot more, and teams will play other people outside of their division in the other division that they won't play as much of. So if I remember correctly, you play each team in your division 4 times. And I think in the other division of your conference, I think you only play them 2 or maybe 3 times. So right now the Capitals are playing the Hurricanes. They've already played them 4 times this year, and now they're in another series against them, which is minimum another 4 games, so they got to play them 8 games, and so on and so forth, all the way until the conference finals when they'll play somebody from another division, which right now is either the Toronto Maple Leafs, Boston Bruins, Columbus Blue Jackets, or Tampa Bay Lightning. Again, I mean, this goes back to a podcast I had a few weeks ago where, I mean, just the alignment of the divisions doesn't even make sense, because teams in the whole like DC, New York metropolitan area, which is the metropolitan division, they all make one Eastern Conference division, and then all the rest of the teams, no matter where they are, make another one. So like Tampa Bay is south of Carolina and DC. However, they're playing teams up in Columbus, Toronto, or Boston. I don't know. But, I mean, that's a whole nother thing I've already gone on. But I don't know. I think they should definitely shake it up. They should do it like how basketball or even football does it. Football is numbered 1 to 6. And just do it like that instead of always having division teams against other division teams until there's a division winner, even though there was a regular season division winner and now you're doing a playoff for the division winner again. It just doesn't make sense to me. But as of the turnout for the playoffs, if I had to guess, personally, I think that if Tampa Bay loses at all, I think that the Capitals have a very strong chance at repeating. I don't think anyone will be able to stop them other than Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was playing lights out earlier in the season and all the way up until the end. But as I said, they're down 3-0, so they're looking pretty rough right now. So we'll see what happens. As far as the Western Conference, trying to look up right now and see how they actually finished. I can't remember who won the overall Western Conference title. So it was, okay, so Calgary won, San Jose finished second, Nashville third, then Winnipeg, then St. Louis, then Dallas, then Vegas, then Colorado. Oh, Dallas and Vegas tied. Winnipeg and St. Louis tied. Okay. So Golden Knights are playing San Jose, who finished second in the conference. And then Nashville, I believe, was playing Dallas. Yeah. And then Calgary was playing Colorado. So looking at this, let's compare and see what's going on. I'm not too... all right, so those are tied. Okay, so Nashville is tied. Calgary's tied. They're up. And then Winnipeg and St. Louis, what was theirs? St. Louis is up 2-0 or 2-1. And they finished back-to-back, I believe, right? Yeah, they finished 4-5, actually tied for it. Okay. So that could have gone either way. They just had the Winnipeg just owned the tiebreaker. And St. Louis is currently up 2-1. All right, so without looking too far into it, let's go with... I'll say the Knights beat the Sharks. Like I said, I believe in 6, possibly even 7 games. I'll say... Actually, I'll do this. I say the Knights will go... No, see, I don't know. I want to say the Knights will go to the Western Conference Finals. However, I think that if Calgary can get past Colorado, which currently their series is tied 1-1, I would say Calgary will beat the Knights. However, if the Knights play Colorado, I will say the Knights will win. So, all right, I'm just going to screw it. Without going through everything, I'm just going to give out my team, and I'm going to say... I'm going to say Nashville. I think it's going to be Nashville against the Capitals. That's what I'm going to go with in the Stanley Cup Finals. And then I'm going to say the Capitals will win. I'm putting it right there. Even though they are my team, I'm not being a homer. I just think that as of right now, the only team in the playoffs that can beat the Capitals are Tampa Bay. If they get knocked out by Columbus, I think the Capitals will not have an easy road, but I think they will be able to repeat. So I'm going to go with Capitals as repeating champs. And this just in, little score update, Carolina scored again. So Capitals are now down 3-0. In the second period, I think it's sitting pretty far away from the TV. I think it says 6 or 8 minutes left in the second period. So, I mean, there is still plenty of time. This is hockey, so scores can happen very fast, especially with the Capitals and having Ovechkin on that left wing and his rocket of a shot. They can score goals fairly quickly. But in this game, being at home, Carolina looks really good. So I'm a little nervous about how this game turns out, but ultimately, even if the Capitals lose this, they still have a series lead of 2-1. And after last year, I'm not too scared because they were down in every series last year and came back and won the Stanley Cup. So there we have it. I chose Capitals and Nashville Predators in the Stanley Cup Finals, and then I choose Capitals to win it all. All right, and on to the next playoffs is NBA. They're not too. They're a lot. Their playoffs started a lot more recent than NHL, so each series only has one game in. As of right now, personally, I think the biggest upset after the first games was Orlando over Toronto in the Eastern first round. I thought that Toronto was going to be able to sweep that. I thought them and Milwaukee would sweep their series. Milwaukee, they won very easily against Detroit in their first game. I believe that was a 25 or 30 point win. Detroit was playing without Blake Griffin their first game, so I don't think anyone saw that going differently. Boston was able to get their Game 1 win, and then by seeding, this was an upset, but I'm not really surprised at it. The Brooklyn Nets were able to beat Philadelphia 76ers in Game 1. So the Sixers are the 3 seed in the East, and the Nets are the 6 seed. So by seeding, it's an upset, but it's not that big of a difference. In the Western Conference playoffs, Golden State, I believe, won their game pretty easily. They're up 1-0. And then Houston won their game, so they are currently up 1-0. Yeah, the Warriors won by 15, so it was a pretty easy win. And then, like I said, Houston beat Utah in Game 1. Portland got a Game 1 win against Oklahoma. It'll be fun to watch that matchup between Russell Westbrook and Damian Lillard. Both they're both main guys. Lillard's a lot better shooter, so I think he'll have a lot better series. Although Westbrook, for the third straight season, averaged a triple-double, so he'll be all over the place. It'll be fun to watch that series. I believe Portland won Game 1 by about 7 or 8 points. It was pretty close. And then the upset in the Western Conference playoffs was the 7-seed Spurs defeated the 2-seed Denver Nuggets. I've talked to a couple people who follow basketball pretty closely, and they don't think it would be that huge of an upset, but of course, seeding wise, it's a pretty big upset. It's a 7 seed over the 2 seed. But I think Denver will be able to bounce back from the Game 1 loss and ultimately win that series. I do believe that as far as the outcome of the playoffs, I think Golden State's going to win their 3rd straight, and it'll be 4 of the last 5 championships. I think they'll play. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be able to stop Milwaukee. So I think it'll be Golden State versus Milwaukee, and then Golden State just has too much firepower. I mean, everyone on their team shoots threes. They have the best three-point shooter in the history of the NBA, and with that being Steph Curry. And then his sidekick, Klay Thompson's also, I wouldn't even call him a sidekick. I mean, he's number 3, but, I mean, you got him, Kevin Durant. They both shoot threes with really high accuracy. And then you got Draymond. He does his own thing. He does whatever he wants. But I do think that they're going to repeat, and there's a lot of talk about Kevin Durant leaving at the end of the season, whether that's to go to New York or to play for the Knicks. Some people are even saying maybe go to the Clippers. I doubt he's going to go to the Lakers. It seems a lot of the top players don't want to play with LeBron. mostly because, I mean, he's a ball dominant player, even though he does like to get his teammates into games, especially Kevin Durant wanting to be the face of the face and the name of the franchise. He doesn't want to go somewhere where LeBron is because he knows LeBron's going to be the face and the player of the franchise. Durant wants to be the main guy and have the say in what's going on. So it'll be fun to watch him at the end of this season, see where he goes. I believe he actually still has one more year on his contract, so he could stay in Golden State, but from everything I've seen and heard, it sounds like he's leaving. So it'll be an interesting offseason. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. It's going to be a fun next I don't know, probably 2 months or so. I believe both sports playoffs usually go to the beginning or middle of June. So it'll be a fun next 4 weeks to see who's able to come out on top. But that's pretty much it for me tonight. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, subscribe to my YouTube page and to SoundCloud so that you can get all the latest updates on new episodes that come out. So go ahead and click those subscribe buttons and tune in. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Have a good night. Bye.